Hi, I'm Dempsey Pula, and this week I'm reviewing... Now before we start off, as always, I just want to take a quick second to remind you guys to make sure you hit that like button if you like today's video, and if you're new here, make sure you hit the subscribe button as well for more new movie-related content weekly. But without further ado, let's jump into today's film. Judas and the Black Messiah was directed by Shakka King and stars Daniel Kaluuya as Fred Hampton, the leader of the Chicago chapter of the Black Panther Party in the late 60s. And the film documents his rise, his impact, and even his tragic downfall as a result of a nasty betrayal by an FBI informant posing as a follower, played by LaKeith Stanfield. Now right off the bat, I'm going to tell you that this film is incredible. Believe the hype. You know, watching the trailer... you ever see a trailer that just looks so good and you think to yourself, there's no way the movie can be that good? I mean, I'm pretty sure the movie's going to be good, but there's no way it'll be as good as the trailer makes it look. This is one of the very few instances where I think that even though the trailer is fantastic, the movie is even better. Like, even if you watch the trailer a million times, nothing will prepare you for how great this film really is. And I'm also really glad that I had, like, not a real good idea of who Fred Hampton was. Like, yes, I was introduced to him through Aaron Sorkin's The Trial of the Chicago 7. He's played by Kelvin Harrison Jr. in that film, and he actually has a pretty decent role in that story. But he's not around in it for long, for a reason. And I'm glad that we actually get a feature film to expand upon just who he really was and just how brilliant of a leader he was. Because growing up, we're only really taught about Martin and Malcolm and how different their movements were. I'm really shocked that it took for me to watch a film about this man in my 20s to finally learn who he was and what he did, because honestly, his approach to peace was kind of the best of both Martin and Malcolm's. And probably the craziest part about his story is that even though he outlived both of them, he still died much younger than they were when they died. Forget about making moves. This guy was making movements in his early 20s, and he died when he was only 22. Another thing to note about this incredible true story, these guys are the ones who wrote it. Initially, anyway. Now, obviously, the Lucas brothers aren't the only ones credited with writing the film. They did get some help along the way, but they were the ones who originally pitched it, and they did hold the project's hand all the way up until it was finally produced. And for that, I have to say, I'm grateful. I know it sounds ridiculous, but seriously, these guys are mostly known for their comedy. So to make something like this, they really had to step out of their comfort zone, out of the brand that they essentially built around themselves. And it was totally worth the risk, I have to say it. Because one, the film totally works on every level. And two, we would have never gotten a Fred Hampton biopic, at least not this soon, if it weren't for, you know, people like them realizing just how important he was and how important his story was. I don't want to say that the film is timely. I do feel like that word gets thrown around a lot, but it is essential. Let that sink in. And over the course of the film, it becomes increasingly evident, not just in the way that he recruits people, but who he recruits as well. I can't emphasize enough, I really do think that Shakka King hit it out of the park with this one. I feel ashamed to say this, but prior to this film, I hadn't heard of him. I know that he's done other things before this now, and I do intend on going back to see what he's done. But man, I am so excited for this guy's future. I think that after this film, he's going to be very much in demand. And the way that he kind of just came out of nowhere and dropped this gem reminded me a lot of how Ryan Coogler just came out of nowhere with Fruitvale Station. And it's funny because Ryan Coogler is actually an executive producer on this film. But nevertheless, I'm just so excited for King's future because there are so many masterful moments in this movie, you know, that indicate that he this is only the beginning for him, okay? And if he's doing this at the very early stage, then, you know, the sky's the limit. You know, one of the best and probably one of my favorite sequences in the film is the sequence where we meet Stanfield's character. Stanfield's character pretends to be a cop to try and rob some gang members, but the whole thing backfires. And not only does it foreshadow his character's need to lie to live, but it also proves just how versatile King is as a director, transforming the almost comedic theft into a truly horrifying experience. Speaking of Stanfield, as horrible as his character is, you have to admit that the performance is just great. Stanfield is really good at making you hate his character, but at the same time you also kind of feel a little bad for him. It's very complex. It's very good, and so good that I think it should be a part of the Academy Award conversation this year. I'm not saying that he won't be, but I could easily see him being overlooked in favor of Kaluuya, who is at an all-time best here. Both of these guys are really playing the best characters they've had in their short yet distinguished careers. And yeah, I mean, there's so much buzz for Kaluuya's character now, but I really would love to see Stanfield get just as much love. It's like they're the same amount of hate that you have for Stanfield's character, you feel in regret for Hampton, because of Stanfield's character, he didn't get to go on to be as big or to make as much difference as he should have. Like I said, he was only 22 years old. And, you know, that in and of itself is painful. And that in and of itself really drives the film and drives a lot of the emotion of the film, that both of these guys were so young and that they were capable of so much. And one of them used his powers for good, and the other one kind of used his powers for evil. I would love to go into more specifics, but I really do feel like these are two roles that you have to witness in order to experience their impact and to really understand. I think the entire supporting cast does a really great job too. Truthfully, the film has quite the ensemble. Here we have Jesse Plemons, Euphoria's Algie Smith, Moonlight's Ashton Sanders, and most prominently, in my opinion anyway, Dominique Fishback, who, even if you don't recognize her name, you'll probably recognize her face from Netflix's Project Power, which came out last summer. She starred alongside Jamie Foxx and Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and while that film was a pretty big film, undeniably, I think that she's probably going to be most remembered for her work here, because, simply put, she'll break your heart. She plays Hampton's love interest, and very similar to Stanfield's character, she starts off as an outsider and gains Hampton's trust, but then she eventually falls in love with him. And the way in which we see their relationship bloom, and the way that she ultimately realizes that as much as she loves him, that he loves his cause and he's willing to die for it, it's that pain of realizing that, you know, he's destined to be a martyr that really drives her performance and really puts her in a league of her own compared to the rest of the supporting cast. Judas and the Black Messiah is a sad reminder that as much as things have changed, there are still ways to go, and there are still a bunch of names and stories out there that we don't know and that we may never know. In the case of Fred Hampton, though, it cleanses his name and absolves him from the criminal reputation that was thrust upon him long before he even came into power. It proves that justice can prevail, and that good does eventually triumph over evil. Not immediately, but eventually. And that fact alone is revolutionary. And for that, I'm going to give this film 5 stars.
Anywhere there's people, there's power.
Guys, thanks so much for taking the time out of your day to view this video. It really does mean the world to me. And once again, if you like this video, please make sure to hit that like button. If you're new here, make sure to hit that subscribe button as well for more new movie-related content weekly. Now, if you happen to see this movie, if you loved it, if you hated it, let me know what you thought about it down below in the comment section. I look forward to reading and responding to all of your comments, as always. But in case you haven't noticed, I'm losing my voice. That's all the time that I have for you guys today. Be on the lookout for more new content shortly. And I'm not going to get back to work. Instead, I'm probably just going to go drink a tea or something. So until next time, I'm Dempsey Palat. Take care.